Your four favorites are Reservoir Dogs, The Passenger, Saw, and Scream. My top choice for you is Funny Games. It's got violence and torture in a confined setting with a small group of characters like Reservoir Dogs. Like The Passenger and Saw, it feels like the antagonists are punishing or judging their victims or trying to teach them a lesson. And like Scream, it has some meta commentary about horror movies and violence in the media. And if you watch the Funny Games remake, Mr. Orange from Reservoir Dogs is in it. But also, the movie is called Funny Games, and Jigsaw loves playing games. Speaking of games, the game, like Reservoir Dogs, is a thriller that involves mistrust and paranoia. Like The Passenger, there's this idea that someone is wasting their life and extreme measures are taken to fix them. Like Saw, a character is invited to play a pretty twisted game, and like Scream, it was released in the mid-90s. While I'm on the topic of games, cheap thrills like Saw involves characters participating in some sick, violent games while also making a statement about class conflicts. Although technically the class commentary in the Saw movies comes up later in the franchise, not necessarily the first film, but you get my point. Heretic is another horror movie where the antagonist is trying to teach his victims a lesson, like The Passenger and Saw, and he loves playing games. But a few other horror films or thrillers that involve some deadly games that I think you might enjoy are Would You Rather, Escape Room, The Belko Experiment, It's What's Inside, and Battle Royale. And the way the characters in Reservoir Dogs have names like Mr. White and Mr. Orange, and they're trying to figure out who among them is the traitor, kind of reminds me of the game Clue. The Departed, like Reservoir Dogs, is a crime thriller involving an undercover police officer. Targets is another one of my top choices for you because one of the characters is a deeply disturbed young man who goes on a killing spree, kind of like Benson in The Passenger. But the film also makes a statement about horror movies and violence in the media, like Scream. The same thing could also kind of be said for Man Bites Dog, because it's about a serial killer, but it's also a mockumentary, so it has that meta horror angle like Scream. And Tarantino is a huge fan of this movie, and it probably was an inspiration for Natural Born Killers, which he wrote but didn't direct. Benson in The Passenger kind of reminds me of the protagonist in the films Falling Down, Nitram, and maybe a little bit of Taxi Driver, but I would have recommended Taxi Driver to you anyway because I think it inspired some aspects of Reservoir Dogs, and Mr. White is in this movie. The Invisible Man came to mind because it involves someone who's subjected to a sort of sadistic kind of test, like in The Passenger and Saw. And like Reservoir Dogs, there's this tension surrounding who can be trusted and what to believe. And like Scream, it's a horror film where a woman is being terrorized and fights back. But more importantly, it was directed by Adam from Saw. The killing of a sacred deer, like Reservoir Dogs, has a feeling of moral ambiguity, lack of trust, and tension among a small group of characters. Like The Passenger, there's a disturbing psychological power dynamic. And like Saw, the characters are tortured, albeit in a more psychological way, and they're forced to make a pretty sick choice. You already saw a lot of the horror comedies I wanted to recommend since you like Scream, but you didn't have Slither marked as watched, and I think you might have fun with this one. I read through your Letterboxd reviews for your four favorites, and you mentioned the homoerotic undertones in quite a few of them, so I want to recommend Rope, which is about killing and has two characters with very different personalities, like The Passenger, and it's gay but in a subtle way because it came out while the Hays Code was in effect. There were three movies that came to mind when I was watching The Passenger that I was hesitant about recommending because I'm not sure if they really fit the vibe, but I'll throw them in as wild cards. First of all, I couldn't help but think of the 1975 film The Passenger, which has absolutely nothing to do with The Passenger that's in your favorites. And for some reason, the movie also made me think of Compliance and On the Count of Three.